Keanu Reeves was placing his shopping bags in the trunk of his car when something caught his eye. In the back of a nearby truck, a small cage held a tiny, fluffy puppy. The little creature looked sad, its bright eyes full of loneliness and fear. Keanu couldn't ignore the sight. He walked over and crouched down near the cage. The puppy's soft fur was slightly dirty, and it shivered as it looked up at him. Despite its condition, it was beautiful. Its thick black coat and gentle expression melted Keanu's heart instantly. Just then, the truck owner returned. He was a rough-looking man with tired eyes. Keanu stood up and smiled politely. "Excuse me," Keanu said. "Where did you find this puppy?" The man sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Found him near my farm," he admitted. "People dump animals there all the time. We can't keep them all." Keanu looked back at the puppy, who let out a small whimper. "So, what are you going to do with him?" he asked carefully. The farmer's face darkened. "Truth is, I was taking him to the vet, to be put down." Keanu felt his stomach drop. "What? Why?" The farmer crossed his arms. "He got into my chicken coop. Killed some of my birds. I can't afford those losses." His voice was hard, but there was sadness beneath it. "He's just a pup, but he's wild. I don't have the time or money to train him." Keanu looked down at the puppy again. It was just a baby, likely hungry and scared. It didn't understand what it had done wrong. His heart ached at the thought of such a tiny creature being put down simply for trying to survive. "I'll take him," Keanu said firmly. The farmer frowned. "You sure? He's not an easy pet." Keanu nodded. "I'm sure." The man hesitated, then sighed. "All right. If you want him, he's yours. Just make sure he never comes back to my land." Keanu gently lifted the puppy from the cage. As soon as he held him, the little one relaxed, pressing his face into Keanu's chest. He could feel its tiny heart beating fast. "You're safe now," Keanu whispered. On the way home, the puppy curled up on the passenger seat, finally able to rest. Keanu glanced at him and smiled. He had made the right choice. "I think I'll call you Lucky," he said softly. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would change both of their lives forever. Keanu Reeves placed his shopping bags in his car when something caught his eye. A small cage sat in the back of a dusty old truck. Inside, a tiny, fluffy puppy stared at him with big, sad eyes. The little creature looked scared and lonely, its soft fur dirty and tangled. Keanu's heart ached. He couldn't just walk away. He stepped closer and crouched near the cage. The puppy let out a soft whimper, pressing its tiny body against the metal bars. At that moment, the truck owner returned. He was a rough-looking man with tired eyes. He noticed Keanu staring at the puppy and sighed. "You interested in the dog?" the man asked. Keanu stood up. "Where did you find him?" "Near my farm," the man replied. "Someone abandoned him there." Keanu frowned. "And now?" The farmer shook his head. "He got into my chicken coop. Killed some of my birds. I can't keep him. Was taking him to the vet, to be put down." Keanu's chest tightened. He looked back at the little pup, who shivered in fear. "But he's just a baby," Keanu said softly. "Maybe so," the farmer said, "but he caused trouble. I can't afford to lose more chickens." Keanu couldn't let this happen. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. "I'll take him," he said. "And I'll pay for the chickens he took." The farmer raised an eyebrow. "You sure? He's not an easy pet." "I'm sure." The farmer hesitated, then nodded. "All right. But promise me, he never comes back to my land." Keanu placed some bills into the farmer's rough hands. Then, carefully, he unlatched the cage and scooped the puppy into his arms. The little one trembled for a moment but then buried its tiny face into Keanu's chest. It let out a soft sigh, as if it finally felt safe. Keanu smiled. "You're safe now, buddy." The drive home was quiet. The puppy, exhausted from fear and hunger, curled up on the passenger seat. Keanu reached over and gently stroked its fur. "I think I'll call you Lucky," he whispered. The pup opened its sleepy eyes for a moment, then snuggled closer. Keanu knew in his heart, this wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of something special. Keanu Reeves had always lived a simple life in his apartment. But now, with Lucky by his side, everything changed. The little pup followed him everywhere, into the kitchen, onto the couch, even to the bathroom door. Lucky was playful, full of energy, and always ready for an adventure. At first, Keanu had to adjust. He woke up early to take Lucky outside. He learned to hide his shoes because Lucky loved to chew them. His once quiet home was now filled with the sound of tiny paws running across the floor. But Keanu didn't mind. In fact, he loved it. Every morning, they went for a walk. Lucky trotted beside him, his fluffy tail wagging. If Keanu stopped to tie his shoe, Lucky sat patiently, watching him with those same big, sweet eyes. At night, Lucky curled up next to him, resting his head on Keanu's lap while he read or watched movies. The bond between them was unbreakable. But soon, Keanu noticed something strange. Lucky was growing fast. At first, it was just a little. His tiny paws became big paws. His small body stretched out. His fluffy fur became thicker. In just a few months, Lucky was no longer a little puppy. He was huge. Keanu laughed when he tried to pick him up one day and almost lost his balance. "Lucky, what are you eating? You're growing like a bear." Lucky wagged his tail and licked Keanu's face. Strangers on the street often stopped and stared. "What breed is he?" they would ask. Keanu didn't know. Lucky was supposed to be a regular dog. But now, he was bigger than most dogs in the neighborhood. Despite his size, Lucky was still gentle and obedient. He never pulled on the leash. He never made a mess in the apartment. He only barked when someone knocked on the door, as if protecting Keanu. One evening, Keanu sat on the couch, looking at Lucky, who now barely fit in his old bed. He smiled and patted his head. "No matter how big you get, you'll always be my little pup." Lucky let out a happy sigh and rested his head on Keanu's feet. Big or small, their bond remained the same. Lucky wasn't just a pet anymore. He was family. Keanu had noticed Lucky's unusual size for a while, but he never thought much of it. Maybe Lucky was just a big dog. Maybe he had some special breed in him. But as time passed, the questions in his mind grew louder. People on the street would stop and stare. Some even crossed the road to avoid walking near Lucky. His thick black fur, sharp eyes, and powerful build made him look different from other dogs. Keanu often heard whispers. "That's no ordinary dog." Feeling concerned, Keanu decided to take Lucky to the vet. He wanted to make sure his furry friend was healthy and growing properly. As soon as they walked into the clinic, the staff froze. One of the nurses gasped. Another stepped back, eyes wide with shock. Keanu frowned. "Is something wrong?" A doctor quickly approached. "Sir, please come with me," he said in a serious tone. "Bring your pet." Keanu followed him into a private examination room. The vet locked the door behind them. Keanu's heart pounded. What was going on? The vet put on his gloves and carefully examined Lucky. He checked his teeth, his fur, his paws. Lucky sat calmly, wagging his tail, unaware of the tension in the room. Then, the vet took a deep breath and looked at Keanu. "Mr. Reeves," he said slowly, "this is not a dog." Keanu blinked. "What?" The vet pointed to Lucky. "He's a full-blooded Canadian black wolf." Silence filled the room. Keanu stared at Lucky, then back at the vet. "That's not possible," he whispered. The vet nodded. "I know it's shocking, but there's no doubt. His size, his fur, his eyes, even his teeth, everything confirms it." Keanu felt his hands turn cold. A wolf? Had he really been living with a wolf all this time? The memories flashed through his mind, how Lucky never barked like other dogs, how he always moved so gracefully, how his presence made people uneasy. It all made sense now. "Is he dangerous?" Keanu asked quietly. The vet hesitated. "Wolves are wild animals by nature," he admitted. "But, this one seems different." Keanu looked at Lucky, who was still sitting patiently, looking up at him with those warm, familiar eyes. Not once had Lucky ever tried to harm him. Not once had he shown aggression. No matter what the vet said, Keanu knew the truth: Lucky wasn't just a wolf. He was family. Keanu reached out and stroked Lucky's head. Lucky licked his hand, just like he always did. The vet sighed. "It's not safe to keep a wolf as a pet. But, if he's bonded with you this deeply, he may not survive in the wild." Keanu nodded, determination in his eyes. "Lucky is staying with me," he said firmly. The vet gave a small smile. "Then you'll have to be very careful." Keanu looked at Lucky and smiled. "I always am." Life with Lucky had been incredible, but things started to change when a wildlife inspector visited. He came out of nowhere, wearing a uniform and looking serious. Keanu had always kept Lucky's true nature a secret from the outside world, but this time, he had no choice but to explain the truth. The inspector watched Lucky with wide eyes, clearly impressed by how calm and gentle he was. "You've done well with him," the inspector said. "It's clear that he sees you as his pack." Keanu smiled, but his heart was heavy. "He's my family." The inspector nodded, but his expression became serious. "That's the problem, though. Wolves are wild animals, and they don't belong in a city. You have to move out of here. You need to provide a safe, natural environment for Lucky, one where he can roam freely." Keanu felt a pang in his chest. He didn't want to leave his home, the apartment where he and Lucky had built so many memories. But the inspector was right. Lucky needed more space. "Can I keep him?" Keanu asked. "You can," the inspector said, "but you'll have to build a proper enclosure, a large one, far away from the city. It's the law." Keanu knew he couldn't ignore the rules. For Lucky's safety and for the future of their bond, he had to make the sacrifice. Without wasting any time, Keanu sold his apartment. He used his savings to buy a piece of land far outside the city, in a place surrounded by trees and open fields. It wasn't easy to leave behind everything he knew, but he couldn't risk losing Lucky. The land was perfect for them, quiet, peaceful, and with enough space for Lucky to roam. Keanu worked tirelessly, building a special sanctuary for Lucky. He made sure there were tall fences, wide open spaces, and shelters where Lucky could rest. It was everything Lucky would need to feel free and safe. But as he worked, Keanu realized something. No matter how hard he tried, the sanctuary still didn't meet all the regulations. The inspector had said that the enclosure had to be bigger, with more natural features for a wolf. Keanu couldn't afford to make all those changes. He had already spent nearly everything he had to buy the land and build the sanctuary. Keanu stood at the edge of the sanctuary one evening, looking at the fences he had built. Lucky was out there, running freely in the open field, just as he had dreamed. But in the back of his mind, Keanu knew that there was still more to be done. A wave of doubt washed over him. Was it enough? Was this sanctuary enough to keep Lucky safe and happy? He sighed, looking at Lucky. The wolf had stopped running and was now standing by the fence, watching him with those familiar eyes. Keanu smiled, a sense of peace washing over him. "I'll do whatever it takes," he whispered. "For you, Lucky." And as the sun set, Keanu made a promise to himself, to do everything he could to give Lucky the life he deserved, no matter the cost. As the days passed, Keanu's hope started to fade. The inspector had returned, and this time, his words were even harsher. "You've made some progress," the inspector said, glancing over the sanctuary. "But it's not enough. If you don't make further improvements, Lucky will have to be removed. He's a wild animal, and this place doesn't meet the necessary regulations." Keanu's heart sank. He had given up everything for Lucky, and now it felt like it was all slipping away. He had tried his best, but it wasn't enough. The sanctuary wasn't big enough. There weren't enough natural features. And no matter how hard Keanu worked, he couldn't afford to make the changes the inspector demanded. Days turned into weeks, and Keanu found himself running out of money. His savings had been spent on the land, the building, and the small improvements he had made. But now, the costs for further changes were far beyond what he could manage. He couldn't bear the thought of losing Lucky, but it seemed like that was what would happen. As much as Keanu tried to keep his hopes alive, the pressure was overwhelming. The reality set in that the life they had built together was about to be destroyed. There were moments when Keanu would sit alone at night, staring at the empty walls of the house, wondering if he had done enough for Lucky. Was there any way to save him? Could he find a solution? But the answer was always the same: there was nothing more he could do. In an attempt to prepare for the worst, Keanu began to distance himself from Lucky. It wasn't easy. Every time Lucky came to him, wagging his tail or nuzzling against him, Keanu's heart broke. He couldn't bear to get too close, knowing that it might be the last time they would share a moment like this. "Hey, buddy," Keanu would say quietly, trying to keep his voice steady. "You've been such a good boy. I'm proud of you." But inside, he was falling apart. Every word felt like a goodbye. Lucky, unaware of the situation, still came to Keanu with the same love and trust he had always shown. He would rest his head on Keanu's lap, and Keanu would gently stroke his fur, feeling the weight of the inevitable separation. Lucky didn't understand why Keanu was pulling away. The wolf simply wanted to be near him, to be a part of his life, just like he always had. But Keanu couldn't let himself get too attached. It was breaking his heart even more to know that this might be the end for them. Every time he saw Lucky's eyes, full of love and trust, it made it harder to let go. "I'm sorry, Lucky," Keanu whispered, tears in his eyes. "I never wanted this." The days grew lonelier, the moments with Lucky more painful. Keanu felt like he was losing the most important part of his life. But deep down, he knew that no matter what happened, he would always love Lucky. Just when Keanu thought there was no way out, a miracle happened. It all started when a close friend of Keanu's, who had seen how hard he was struggling, decided to share Keanu's story online. She posted about Keanu's bond with Lucky, his fight to keep him, and the struggles he faced to build a safe space for the wolf. She wrote about how much Keanu had sacrificed, how deeply he loved Lucky, and how hard he was working to keep his promise to the pup. The post quickly spread. People from all over the world were moved by Keanu's story. They were touched by the love between Keanu and Lucky, and they understood the incredible effort Keanu had put into giving his wolf a good life. Some people shared the post with their friends, while others posted their own stories of animal rescue and the power of human connection. It wasn't long before Keanu's story went viral. Messages of support flooded in. People from different countries offered words of encouragement. Some asked how they could help, while others simply wanted to express how much they admired Keanu's dedication. But the most surprising thing happened when thousands of people started donating money. Small donations, large donations, people gave what they could. The love and support were overwhelming. Even the wildlife inspector, who had been so strict with Keanu before, reached out. He had seen the story online and was moved by the community's response. He admitted that Keanu had made progress and that the support from so many people showed how important this bond was. The inspector even contributed a donation to the fund, signaling that he, too, believed in Keanu's commitment to Lucky. With all the donations, Keanu was able to raise enough money to make the necessary improvements to the sanctuary. He hired experts to help him design a larger, more natural enclosure, one that would provide Lucky with the space and environment he needed to thrive. The changes were exactly what the inspector had recommended. They built special areas for Lucky to roam and play, with trees, water features, and enough space for him to feel at home. When the work was completed, Keanu called the inspector to schedule a final inspection. With a mix of nerves and hope, Keanu waited. He had worked so hard to make everything perfect, but he wasn't sure if it would be enough. The inspector arrived and walked through the new sanctuary, carefully inspecting every detail. He watched Lucky running freely, his large frame moving gracefully through the natural landscape. The inspector smiled. "You've done it, Keanu," he said, nodding in approval. "This is a proper sanctuary for Lucky. You've earned the right to keep him here, with you." Tears of relief and joy filled Keanu's eyes. It felt like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. The support from so many people, combined with his own hard work and determination, had made it possible for him to keep Lucky forever. As the inspector left, Keanu turned to Lucky, who was now playing happily in the new sanctuary. Keanu knelt down and hugged him tightly. "We did it, buddy," he whispered, his heart full of gratitude. "You're home. Forever." And with that, Keanu knew that no matter what happened in the future, he and Lucky would always have each other. The bond they shared was stronger than ever, and nothing could break it. After the miracle that allowed Keanu to keep Lucky, his life took a beautiful turn. The bond between him and the wolf had only grown stronger, and Keanu knew it was time to do more, not just for Lucky, but for other animals who needed a second chance, just like him. Keanu decided to start an animal rescue organization. With the support of the thousands of people who had helped him keep Lucky, Keanu had built a strong social media following. He used his platform to raise awareness about animal rescue, wildlife conservation, and the importance of second chances. His followers were not only inspired by his story, but they also wanted to help animals in need. Keanu knew he had the power to make a real difference. The new organization focused on rescuing animals in danger, offering them a safe place to recover and thrive. Keanu worked with other rescuers, shelters, and veterinarians, ensuring that animals received the care and attention they deserved. With his influence and growing network of supporters, he was able to fundraise for many animals, giving them the chance to live better lives. Lucky quickly became the face of the organization. He was no longer just Keanu's companion, he was a symbol of hope. His journey from a wild, abandoned pup to a beloved member of Keanu's family was a powerful story that resonated with many. Lucky showed the world that no matter how dark the past, there could always be a brighter future. With the growing success of his rescue efforts, Keanu continued to expand his sanctuary for Lucky and other animals. His dream was simple but meaningful, to give Lucky the closest experience to the wild while ensuring his safety. He built new, larger areas in the sanctuary, designed to look and feel like nature. Trees, open fields, and ponds filled the space, allowing Lucky to roam freely and connect with his wild instincts. Though Lucky would always be a little different, Keanu knew he could provide the best life for him. His sanctuary was not just a place for Lucky to live, it was a place for him to thrive. Keanu made sure Lucky could experience the freedom of the wild while still being protected from the dangers that came with it. As the years passed, the bond between Keanu and Lucky remained unbreakable. The love they shared had only deepened, and their connection showed the world that love knows no boundaries, even between man and wolf. They were more than just owner and pet, they were family. Keanu's organization continued to grow, helping more animals and spreading the message of compassion and second chances. Lucky's story was at the heart of it all, reminding everyone that, sometimes, the most unexpected relationships can change the world. For Keanu, there was no greater joy than knowing that, with Lucky by his side, he had created a new beginning, not only for himself but for countless animals who now had a chance at a better life. Together, they proved that love and hope could conquer even the hardest challenges. Keanu's journey with Lucky shows the power of love and second chances. What started as a simple act of kindness turned into something much bigger, saving not just one life, but many. Lucky was given a chance when no one else believed in him, and in return, he changed Keanu's life forever. There are many animals like Lucky who need help. Some are abandoned, some are in danger, and some just need someone to believe in them. Animal rescues and sanctuaries work hard to protect these animals, but they need support. Even small actions, adopting, donating, or simply spreading awareness, can make a big difference. If you saw Lucky in that cage, would you have saved him too? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more inspiring stories to life. Together, we can make the world a better place for animals, one rescue at a time.